when are they going to start deleting all the old web stuff from us if the world
From all
makes stuff?
the people that have died.
Yeah, like 500 years. Let's say the Earth makes it 500 years. When do you start deleting everything from, like, 2000s?
Where does the internet live? Like, how much storage is there?
Servers.
Is there a finite amount of
There's
server storage for the
it's in the-
internet?
It's in the cloud.
with the aliens. It lives in the ocean with like damn aliens. That's where the internet lives.
There's lots of room in the ocean.
Yeah, there's plenty of room in the ocean.
Just dump all the servers in the
I'm gonna
ocean.
introduce the topic before we talk about alien conspiracies, and then we're gonna talk about the Great Pyramids and how they're in like Egypt and Mexico, and how Europe is not developed because I was gonna say something racist, but
Oh
But I'm
my
gonna stop.
gosh.
All right. We lost our 3 followers.
we lost 3 of our followers. Okay, this time we're gonna kind of do a more organized version of what our last video was, which is understanding how important it is to understand the user path, the user journey, and then how you need to make judgments, how you need to make decisions in terms of like your KPI calculations and what your CPA targets should be, right? So I do have a sheet here somewhere, but I'm going to find that after I explain everything to you guys. And we're going to do it specifically in the local home service space. So this could be plumbers, electrician, HVAC, carpenters, carpet cleaning, pest control, anything you can think of, right? So local home service space, right? So when we're thinking about the user journey with an individual, any of those individuals, and we'll use, which one should we take an example, guys?
Let's use a plumber.
Okay, let's use plumbing as an example, right? So when we're talking about the user, let's look at the user journey from a client perspective, not from the user perspective, because we're working with the clients, right? So from a client perspective, Colby owns Colby's plumbing business. Colby wants phone calls, form fills to come in, right? But not every phone call or form fill is going to be accurate, right?
Yeah, because I don't want to just come to plunge your toilet. You better have a real issue. I want to be using drills and hammers.
So the first step of all this
glue.
user journey is calls and form fills, because that's what we're tracking. That's the first part of this, right? Now, out of these phone calls, some of them are going to be spam. Some of them are going to call and hang up. Some of them are just pressing the button and not doing anything or whatever, right? So from these phone calls or calls to forms, I actually have actual numbers for this in this particular case. Oh yeah, let me put plumbing here.
This is a slight of the video I did last time.
We
can just call this the remastered version.
The remastered version. Calls. We have what we call qualified calls, or a qualified. I don't know how to spell qualified. Qualified call or qualified lead. Right now, these are more in terms of like someone that actually comes in with the interest. And again, this video is about understanding the customer journey, regardless of the person. And I'm kind of breaking down one case scenario for in the home service space. So then it comes down to qualified leads as a whole there. So from those qualified leads, not all of them are going to be bookable, right? So from a qualified lead to a bookable amount, it's the booked call, right? So now something to keep track of is that for every 100 calls, only X amount of them are going to be, actually, I feel like I should make this into a table and then just build on it. Table 2, 3 calls. And we're going to work backwards, guys. We're going to work backwards with this one. Calls.
There's no headers on this table.
Listen. I don't need your negativity. All right. For every call, let's just assume we get 100 calls. And then this is very heavily dependent on the type of traffic you get. But I work with a client in the search space. So for every 100 calls I get, roughly 85% of them is a qualified call, right? So out of 85, I know.
Yeah, I think you're lying, actually.
I will prove it to you after this call. I'll pull it up and show it to you. But out of every 100, 85% of them end up being qualified calls. Interestingly enough, in the electrician space, it's like 66%. But
this is easy math. I just want to say,
in the plumbing space, it's 85% for me. So out of every 100 calls I get, 85% of them, 85 of them are usually qualified calls. And out of those 85 of those, about 90% of them end up being booked by their sales team. So what's 90% of this, guys? Someone do the math.
90% of what? 85.
Yeah, which is 76.5.
I manage clients. I don't do math.
76.5. So for every call, we have 100, 85, and 76.5. Now, you kind of have again, you're going to have to mess with the CRM and all that stuff to get these numbers, but that's the general funnel. Now we have to figure out what my CPA needs to be at this stage to match these numbers, right? Now, it depends on what the client goal is. So let's say Colby is the client and Colby wants an ROI of 3x.
I always want 10x, but we can do 3x.
Please, let's do 3x for the sake of math. Actually, 10x would probably be easier, but 3x, right?
Every client just always wants 10x. That's
Colby
my
wants an ROI of 3x, and then the average order value for an average revenue, I'm going to say revenue per job. Whoops. Job for in this space is usually like 600 to 800. So we're going to say $700, right? $700. So that's the average revenue per job, which means if Colby wants a 3x out of this, right? Hold on. Everything clear up to here? Any questions around here, guys? No? Okay. So now
you're good.
So now let's start reverse engineering it. Let's start going backwards now. We know that the average, I'm just going to get average rev, is equal to $700, right? And we want an ROI of 3. So my cost per booking to achieve
233 at most. 233 at most.
700 divided by 3, which is
233.
233. So if I need to book a call for $233. Okay.
At
so
the
now,
most.
At most, I can book a call based off this average order value, right? So this is, again, these are numbers you need to get from clients, all these numbers, right? You need to get from clients. So at that most, I can get a cost per booking of $233, which means at most, I can get a cost per, I'm going to say qualified lead of 233 times 0.85. Oh, this was 0.9 because 85 to this was 0.9. 0.9, which is what, Andrew? Somebody just...
yeah, hold on. Keep talking, I'll calculate.
Yeah, so 233.9 because our cost, because the transition from this to this is 90%. So that means this is
209.
209. And now we're going to go back even further. And which means the cost per lead, again, following proper intent, proper keywords, is 209. And then we said the shift from here to here was 85%, so times 0.85. Whoops.
It's like school, and I'm just pretending like I'm doing something to hope that you don't
177.
call on me.
177. So now here's your target cost per lead that you need to hit in this case for hitting their target. This is the cap based off these KPIs. Now things change if, let's just hold on. I'm gonna add 2 more KPIs here. So let's do cost.
While you're doing that, I'll make another point too. Like if you're looking at this like over a period of time, and like your, let's say, client is saying X, Y, and Z, and like 1 month your CPL is like 185, the next month it's like 140, whatever. As long as you're averaging that CPL goal, or at least within at least a halfway decent margin of error, then you're fine. Like it doesn't have to be that like month over month if there's a lot of volatility to it, as long as it averages out.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. It's gonna fluctuate based off the season, the month, and that kind of stuff. So now this number here or this cost per qualified lead, this number here, whoops, is completely dependent on these two numbers here and these numbers here. For example, should we make a Google Sheets for this and kind of show how up with the numbers?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Colby, play some background music.
Ooh, if you are gonna leave me, I will cry so big and bad. Because Dr. Usama Khan is the best Google Ad strategist that I ever had.
That was recorded, guys, and Colby sang it. So
A note for the editors, please just auto-tune that portion.
auto-tune that, and then please give it to me, because I will be using
We've
that.
got a big budget operation going on here. I want everyone to know.
Very big. Format and then numbers. Let's make this into percent. Okay, sweet. And then ROI target is a 3x. And then AOV, I'm just going to call it AOV is 600. Okay. Now,
I think if people are confused or anything, we should maybe use different things for like ROI. Like, do we say they want a media efficiency ratio?
this is lead gen.
Yeah, you could still say that stuff.
It's still, yeah.
Oh, yeah, true. So let's go backwards. So we want cost per booking, and then cost per qualified lead, and then cost per lead. All right, so cost per booking is
Do ASV, not AOV. Average service value.
okay. Average service value. And then
Let's make more acronyms in marketing, because that's
Yeah,
what
there's
we
not
have.
enough.
there's not enough. All right, so this one was the average service value, because Andrew likes that word, multiplied by this number here. So that should be, oh wait, no, sorry. This one was average service value. We divided by 3, right? And then cost per qualified lead was this number here, multiplied by this number here, which was 210. Cool, numbers line up. And this one here was this number here, multiplied by this number here. That's 178. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. So let's add the dollar sign here. Number, where's my dollar sign? Sweet. I hate this font, so we're gonna change the font. And we're gonna make it all the same. And we're not gonna make it
Like
bold.
Georgia, that's not even a good.
That's
font.
what I was gonna say. What the hell?
I actually like it.
Georgia is your go-to?
Yeah, it is.
That strange font.
It is my go-to font.
I'm more of a Proxima Nova kind of guy.
Proxima.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
That's what every single agency on planet Earth uses as their brand guidelines.
Okay, guys, I'll switch. Jeez, which one is it?
Proxima.
I mean, you don't have. Yeah, there you go. There it is.
Where?
Go down. Oh yeah, look at that.
You. That
So
looks so
clean.
boring.
I just wanna spend
But
so
okay,
many-
now back to the thing. Okay, so now I was saying like these numbers are a reference point to what the client's KPIs are, because in this situation their booking rate is really well, but sometimes the booking percentage, clients just don't have good sales pitches or things. The booking percentage will decrease. So what happens here? You can get these numbers decreased. So let's change that back from 210 for qualified to 178, and then let's say their booking leads, they just suck at booking calls, the good ones, it drops. So now you have to get them more calls at a lesser cost per lead, right? But at the same time, if the average order value is higher, let's just say in the electrician space, the average job point is like 1250, you now have more margin to play with, right? But again, and if their ROI goal is a 3 or like a 2.5, all of a sudden you have even more. But if it gets higher, you have much less. So these KPIs here define what your CPA targets, your acquisition targets need to be here.
And we should say, so you're just talking about how you could increase your average order value. And then ultimately you could, I love how I always say this and all these things, ultimately you can think about lifetime value as well. And if you're the marketer and you're doing the bidding here, this is where you can try to figure out what your future campaigns and strategies will look like. if
You know
you
what?
can increase those values and make your life easier.
I tried doing that, but they have no idea, and they have no data for me to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I
Well, in a perfect world, you could just like
Yeah.
you could target like the more expensive services and stop spending money on the services that bring in less revenue, and then that way, you would find that the other steps, maybe the cost per lead, maybe everything is more expensive, but that average order value is higher.
I actually love what Colby said. So we're gonna go back to what I was looking at before. So
loved what I said.
Yeah, no, because I agree with it, because that's what I did. So we were talking about plumbing, right? And then Colby mentioned average order value and jobs, because you need to get them more qualified jobs, right? There are different tiers to jobs. Something like just a faucet leak or just leak might only be like $100 job, right? Like a sink leak, right? But if they have to tear up like the main line or like a main line leak, whoops, I can't spell main line leak.
Because your ants had the runs.
Yeah, right. That might be like a $5,000 job, right? Or like, let's just say it's a toilet they need to replace, right? That might be a $2,000 job. So you can structure your keyword strategy around the type of jobs that you want that lead to certain scenarios, right? Like a small lead could just be, because small lead could just be this, and then there's main jobs as well. I don't know all the main jobs, guys. I could probably pull them up, but I don't know. But that's what I mean. Like, choose the jobs that perform well. And the way I would structure these campaigns, it's very specific. The volume for any service-based business is always highest in these terms. This kind of stuff, right? So a good chunk of your budget is going to be taken by these near me terminology. But then there's also demand for very specific terminology, something like leak detection, near me, toilet. This is just from the top of my head that I can remember. Installation, near me. Now these become job specific. And now you can organize your campaigns for these very high volume numbers when you need the calls, and very job specific ones for the high AOV ones. So you can allocate budget to this and this.
That's almost identical to, I had an account like this for a long time, where their primary service was like any water damage kind of remediation.
Yeah.
So plumbing stuff.
Yeah.
But they also did a lot of mold jobs, and they also did like fire damage. All the water stuff was by far and away like the thing that they had the most volume behind, while also having the most like profitability in terms of like their average service value from those jobs and how much we were spending on those terms, versus like the mold stuff. Those jobs were a lot less expensive or a lot less revenue for them, but they were a lot more frequent. So we kind of tried to allocate our budget percentages across those three services: water, mold, fire, based on one, the volume of those jobs that are typical for that business, and then also based on how profitable those jobs are.
Yes.
I would just go to add too. I'm sorry, Sama. Cutting off is my memory.
No. I was just agreeing with Andrew. I'm like,
okay, cool. I was just gonna say, with everything you're doing here, with respect to all of your different services, the thing that you don't want to forget is that your services that bring in more revenue are more expensive. And so if you have multiple campaigns, you're distributing a low amount of budget to a high ticket item. It's going to take much longer for that to convert. And if you're not putting enough budget in it, it's never going to look good. And then you're going to say, oh, well, like, I don't know what to do here. Whereas the ones with volume that might be of lesser value will look a lot better. But if you don't give a fair shake to your higher value items, and that's why figuring out what cost per booking means. And I think you should, you go and generate those metrics for all those campaigns, all those service offerings. You look at the conversion rates, and then you start to look at how much average revenue each campaign generates. And then that's how you inform your budget. in the future. If you look at that in the big pictures, maybe even do it quarterly. So that's what you got to do. And what Andrew didn't say about the flooding and the fires is he actually went and caused every single one of those floods and fires.
I did. I'm a serial arsonist.
I'm going to teach you guys another cool hack that I've figured out that works really well.
Before we go down another hack road, I kind of want to totally derail this conversation.
Do it. Let me stop sharing.
And I think it's also important to think about the actual user journey for all of this too, because once you have all your numbers and stuff kind of mapped out in terms of what you feel like you actually need to be able to hit on a monthly basis, I think you still really have to go through the user journey side of things and not just from kind of the client side, because going back to Usama's point earlier, like there's only really for this specific example, at least, there's only really two ways that people are looking for that kind of service, and it's either somebody that's near them. And for those people, here I'm going to share my screen really fast.
Getting the
so for the people that are near you, like if I just look up plumbers near me, this is the first thing that everyone sees, literally always. And these are always your local service ads. And from an optimization standpoint, like local service ads, you can't do anything with them, really. All you can do is chuck in a budget and like a weekly budget and tell them what services you do, and then it just spits things out.
Lord.
I don't have anything to back this up, but this is my conspiracy theory. in terms of like how Google kind of prioritizes which businesses actually show up here, I think it is so heavily weighted by reviews.
I can confirm it's reviews, it's activity on your Google My Business, and it's responses. So like if it's engagement on like your calls and things, like you need to be getting consistent calls for them, you need to be getting reviews, you need to be getting engagement on your Google My Business, you need to be active on your Google My Business.
It almost follows exactly what you're saying though, because look at the bottom, it was like 250 and then it just goes up. Top 3 have the most amount of reviews.
There's a 1K one up here, but I mean, again, that's irrelevant. But if you're thinking of this, like of the actual users and the actual traffic that you're trying to acquire, these are the first things that people look at. So if the business or the client that you're working with like doesn't have a really dialed in like Google My Business page, like this becomes so much more difficult, because again, like if I refresh this is the very top of the page, and then there's one actual search ad here, and then you're back in your map ads,
free stuff,
and then like down here you're not even, this is just organic stuff.
The SEO plays.
Yes. So I think there's so many other things that once you know those kind of metrics that you need to start chasing, there's a lot of other things outside of just your media buying that you have to have conversations with the client about. Because if this stuff isn't dialed in, like you'll never make it work on Google Ads by itself. Like this will never work just from pure search. It just won't, because this stuff is way too competitive.
Yeah, just for context, that local service ads is significantly cheaper, guys. Cheaper. Not
Wake
cheaper.
up, people.
Yeah, cheaper. Way more cheaper than search. Like a search CPC is like, let's just talk plumbing space, like $30-$40, which means you need to have like 30 to 40% conversion rates, which means 1 in every 2-3 people need to convert. So your Google Ads targeting needs to be spot on, or you'll be tossing money aside. Local service ads, you'll get a call in for like $50-$60. Usually people come into Google or bring Google into play when, one, they're struggling with local service ads and they need the momentum there and they're starting early on. And two, when they need the call volume, when they don't have enough business, because again, it's a demand channel. You can't control local service ads, but you can still control Google. And
there's a thought, like the play about like why top of funnel matters so much, and like just think of historically, like Google ads are not, why plumbers and these types of services run radio ads and all these different ads. It doesn't have to be radio for you. Of course, it can be on the Google Ads network. It can be YouTube, Facebook. You need to pump your top of funnel, because when something happens, say they don't look at the LSAs, they need to recognize your brand and go with you, because there's so many different competitors.
So,
your USP needs to be memorable.
I say this to everybody, and I have case studies. Well, we don't have that account anymore to prove it. But if I was running like a new business, like Colby's Plumbing is a brand new business, I would tell Colby to only spend on YouTube, only spend on Facebook. Do not spend a dime on search. Why? Because again, to Colby's point, people are gonna go to what they recognize and what they perceive as best value. What they recognize is gonna be what seeing Colby's face all over their Facebook and YouTube. What they see as perceived value is the amount of reviews. So if they see the amount of reviews, that's valuable to them. But if they also recognize Colby's brand after seeing the ad so many times, that's valuable to them. But they're more likely to click Colby's, even if he's less official, less reviews than the other one, because they've seen him so much. It builds a trust factor because it's face-to-face value in that. So we had a client, a dentist one, before, and these guys were struggling to get calls. And then I'll follow this up with a study we did as well. So, and they were in like a certain region area, and there was like 4 dentists in there, but they were struggling to get a call. And then what I ended up doing with the CM and the specialist, there was like, they were very against it. They're like, it's not converting. We launched YouTube ads. I'm like, launch YouTube ads around like a 5-kilometer radius or 5-mile radius. And I'm like, leave it run. Every week they would be like, it's not working. It's not working. I'm like, just leave it, let it run. I kid you not, in like 3 months, they had pretty much tripled their business. And there was no way to track it. But the only thing that changed was the amount of walk-ins increased, the amount of people that are recognizing their brand increased. So when people did need a dentist because they were seeing YouTube videos all the time, they went to the client. They called them up.
The thing to mention is you should be measuring walk-in traffic if you have a physical brick and mortar store, like whatever it is. Because if you can't be measuring call volume and all of that, you might be bringing more people in the door, but it's not being measured. And I mean, in the long run, maybe it'll show, but it's nice to have something else, especially with longer conversion leg, to show to the client you're actually doing something. And I'll just say dentist is like the biggest grind, the worst, like most difficult thing that I don't like to do ever. So
same.
Because, when do you go to, like, why am I going to go to this dentist? Like, you're going to go to a dentist that's convenient and close to you. And then it's like, maybe they have some ads.
Yep. And then we also did a study. So we had a really big client before. They were spending like, what was it, Andrew? 700, 800K a month across like 3 businesses, multiple franchises. So I had 3 different local service businesses. They had multiple franchises. So I was running maybe like, I want to say 30 accounts, give or take, 30 different location accounts. So what we ended up doing was an analysis on brand equity and the CPAs on there. So basically what we did was we did it really simply. We looked at the size of the market, the amount of branded search terms for those brands, and then associated directly with the cost per lead from a brand term perspective and a cold term perspective. So basically what the CPA was for something like Colby's Plumbing and what the CPA was for plumber near me in that area. And what we basically found was that areas where they had more brand equity, there were basically more brand searches. The cost per booking for a brand term obviously decreased, but the cost per booking for the cold terms also was lower than the ones in areas where we didn't have that much brand equity. So building that top of funnel awareness not only helps your overall business, but it also helps every other channel because it builds that foundational awareness around people for people to recognize.
And then you're back to old-fashioned marketing.
You're back to build.
I think we forget about that, right? And this is going to go back to another thing Andrew was talking about. I was just going to say, I think we forget to go through our company, like the website and the user's journey. I think you should do that regularly, make a habit of it, because you don't know if there's anything going wrong, but like it's easy to get tunnel vision on what we see and then not know what the users are seeing. And so, we are always thinking the wins and losses are because of us, but you should have a good perspective of what's going on. And it's tough to do. I say, it's always like, install Clarity, but you forget about it 2 weeks later. So
I think
man, I could rant for ages about like the transition into like performance marketing in digital marketing and how
I think it should be
hurt more than it's helped, to be honest.
Yeah. Wait, hurt more?
100%. Because it's taken away, like, I think part of it is just we're totally off the rails now, but who cares?
Oh, I love it. No, this is what brings the people in.
But I think as performance marketing has evolved, like it's just gotten to the point where people just have gotten so used to like hyper analyzing things. And I know, Usama, you and I were both kind of going back and forth on a LinkedIn post about this. Not that like earlier this week, but people, it's like they just get so lost in the weeds, like looking at individual ads and how they're performing, and it's like it doesn't matter. Like that's not the thing that's going to move any needle for your business.
Difference between
like, 0.05
to 0.07, and you're spending a week to ship the creative. It reminds me of when people are like, oh, like should I change the landing page like CTA button from blue to red? And I'm like,
exactly.
I don't think it matters. I really don't.
Like maybe to an extent, but like big picture, there's a lot of big picture stuff.
Very like minimal. Like if you're having like, for someone, let's just say Colby's having like 10 calls a week, it's gonna make no damn difference. But if you're like in a position where you're getting 2,000 calls a week, okay, maybe then I'd consider it. Okay, like I need to adjust the color of this, that, and that kind of stuff. But
yeah, I think
that majority,
you always
10,000 calls a week. Colby's a small mom and pop business.
Yeah, I'm just small mom and pop business.
You always just have to come back to your
UX UI designers.
By the way, mom and pop restaurants are where the good food is at. Go find the most random places and top tier.
The biggest, largest chains in the entire world. Those are good.
Yeah.
With better cheap.
Andrew, what were we saying before we derail too much?
All I was saying is I think at the end of the day, you just always have to come back to your 80-20 rule.
Yeah. I love that.
Oh, like if you find yourself stuck like looking at something that's making like 20% or less of the actual like revenue impact on something, don't waste your time. Yeah. Like you're gonna get sucked into that hole for so much time and effort, and it's not worth the squeeze at all. It never will be.
Yeah, because there's always work you can do. I think everything should be put in that terms of like, is the work worth the effort? And sometimes that's a difficult conversation, maybe a conversation you don't have with the client. I mean, always be honest and whatnot, but do the things that matter most. Don't get lost in the BS of like nothingness,
Yep. Sweet. Hello, people. I'm just gonna let Colby talk because Colby's talking about stuff this week. Colby, stop opening up your whole screen.
I can't. I don't know where to put my notes. All right.